Welcome to the Inquisitors of India podcast. I'm your host, VYGGK, and with me today we have Prudent Hermit. He's our Intelligence Wing Expert on issues related to national security, internal security, military intelligence, and just any question you might have related to that field. With us, we have a lot. We have our members: Laddu, Skuro, Needy, Naga, Ricky V, K18, Sunny, Tufcake, Utkarsh, and Raptor. So first, I would like to welcome our guest, Prudent Hermit. How are you?
Thank you, VY, and thank you everyone for tuning in. It's a pleasure speaking to you, especially on the matters of very less discussed topics of intelligence. In India, we don't have a general awareness about such matters, and all of us have questions. So it's a good platform to actually clear our doubts here.
Okay. Uh, Before we start, is there anything you would like to tell us about yourself, like just to tell our viewers?
Like I can
Just
start by saying that I am um, in my 30, actually touching 30, and I am interested in geopolitics, in intelligence, in international relations, military, and the special units, and have always been inclined, yeah, and aircrafts also. Of course, those who know me on Twitter know that I love aircrafts. So um, I've been inclined to these fields more rather than the other, fields. Uniform attracts me, of course, like most of the Indians. The olive green, both the olive greens and the khaki, I respect both uniforms. So um I have knowledge not as an expert, subject matter expert, but more often observer in the field and reading mm, some between the lines. As it is said that around nine in today's generation, around 90% intelligence is open source.
yes.
We talk about OSNITs, but the word is really old, open source, and it is through careful examination of open source that we can deduce many things. So I'm not talking as an agent of any agency trying to clear any facts. It is just open source based analysis, which every one of us can do if we are trained for it. That's all.
Okay. So before we start with the questions from our members, I'll just ask you some vague questions, just to know about you and your like just your, I guess, journey through to getting to this point where you know so much about this particular field. So I just first want to ask you what made you so interested in learning about these things.
Yeah. So I can simply say that influence from family that comes first. Uh, my grandfather was an Air Force pilot, so it started with him when I was a boy. I used to see him in uniform, and around I would be around bases and see him flying aircraft. So the fascination started from him. Then the stories he used to tell me that as aircraft pilot he used to spy. So that was I was interested. How can aircraft pilots spy actually? So I was interested in what is spoinage, what is spy novels. Then, of course, my other uncles and my father too were in similar line of work, and I got more aware of the intelligence. Few of my friends became police officers, and they joined the vigilance wing of their respective states. So that was also an insider's perspective there.
Okay.
I also wanted to join, but could never join.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So thank you for that great intro. And now I'll begin with the questions. Let's see. Well, Laddubai, do you have any questions for Prudent?
Yeah, thank you. I had two specific questions. Recently, I've been reading a book called A Myth of Hindu Terror by RVS Mani. He was in Home Secretary Department when the 26/11 happened. So in the book, he makes certain allegations that the erstwhile government was actively involved with terrorist organization and the enemy state in order to conduct certain terrorist attacks on Indian soil. So what's your take on that? And should I ask the second question right now or
Um,
Uh, let us take one by one.
okay?
So, being a home secretary, he might have some information which we are not privy to. But and the allegation that government was actively involved with an enemy state, this I think can be a little bit of exaggeration. Like, yes, government can be ignorant. Government can not pay attention. Government could have different priorities, but actively involved with enemy state is, I think, a bit of overstretch, in my personal opinion. Because during the 26/11 also there were intelligence inputs. If you read the high level committee report on 26/11, it says that there were intelligence inputs that hotels, uh, top hotels across the Mumbai will be a target. So the officers were instructed to issue warnings and to review security audits of the hotel. These were done by a very junior level officer of the police station. Police station in charge used to do it. The committee found that such inspections should have been done by the DCP. So there were availability of the intelligence input, but the response of this specific state government and the officers concerned and the seriousness given to this intelligence was in question. So it could be lacksidal response. I agree that the response was not up to the mark. We don't take intelligence inputs with more concern than some countries in the West take. So, yes, negligence was there, but active involvement, in my personal opinion, it might not be there.
o-
Thanks for that.
okay.
My second question is a general one. When you compare ISI with RAW and IB, who do you think is which agency has been more successful, and what is the reason you would take that opinion, and what needs to be done in case of intelligence agencies from now on to strengthen them?
Okay. So, ISA and RAW, if I speak about these agencies, which one is the most known? ISA. So the basic purpose of an intelligence agency, a foreign intelligence agency, is that it remains hidden. But ISI is very popular, and mm, if someone kidnaps someone on Park Street, they openly say that the ISI guys came and kidnapped. So does it reflect very well on the secrecy for which this organization was meant? I will tell you what's the difference between RAW and ISI. ISI is a military owned and military controlled organization which is very good at special ops. Intelligence being an add on to ISI. I will agree that they are very good in special ops. So, by special ops, you can guess it is infiltration, it is psych ops, it is honey trapping. These are special ops of the ISI. Sabotage. They are very good in. RAW is what we call a classical intelligence agency whose main purpose is to collect intelligence. So, justifying its role, it is very good in intelligence collection. You need to understand that intelligence is collected for consumers of intelligence. And in Indian setup, it is not the intelligence agency which acts on its intelligence, but the consumers of intelligence, which may be the local police, which may be the central paramilitary, army, uh, or air force, navy. So they act on it. So, as far as the secrecy role is concerned, many in India don't know about RAW that much. And if they know about RAW, they cannot link it to a particular government department. They don't know where the exact headquarters are and where its field offices are. So, in that way, in the role of secrecy, in role of maintaining spies over international stations, in inland stations, most of us believe that RAW is basically a foreign intelligence and it has no role inside India, which I will say is not true. And there are many inland stations of RAW in the country. So, on the level of secrecy, it is A rated, in my opinion, against ISI. IB. Now, IB used to be what RAW is. IB was bifurcated into the RAW. So IB basically is a police organization. It is made of the middle management and the senior management are all IPS officers, but they are very professional at their job, and with the limitations that they are performing quite good job. Uh, since 2000, I will say 14, they are doing exceptionally well. So
Okay.
mm,
Thank you so
this
much.
is my analysis of RAW, ISI, and IB.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prudent Bhai and Laddu Bhai for asking that question. We move on to our next member, Sunny. Sunny cannot ask the question right now because he's at home. So I will be asking the question for him. So his
Yeah, he has quite a big list of questions. Yeah, let us start it.
well, we'll start with two questions, and then if we have time, we'll ask the remaining because I want everybody to get a turn. Okay, the first question he wanted to ask is, how do they manage such coordination with other agencies here in India as well as in abroad? I think by they he probably means the Indian, I guess, Raw or Intelligence Bureau. Yeah.
Yeah, so let us take it how the interagency cooperation
Yeah.
happens. So, at the head level, that is the apex level, it is the Joint Intelligence Committee that comes into the play. The National Security Advisor is the person to which the intelligence chiefs report before the Prime Minister. And it is on the responsibility of the NSA that if he feels that the intelligence is too important, it should be shared with the Prime Minister. Though in Wikipedia it is said that the RAW chief has a direct access to the Prime Minister, maybe because they are on the same floor. Offices of Secretary RAW and the PM are on the same floor, but in practicality, he has to go through the NSA. There is in the Joint Intelligence Committee, there are around 23 agencies listed as intelligence agencies, but the main ones that are IB, RAW, Defense Intelligence, Directorate of Military Intelligence, these agencies are the main ones that coordinate with each other. They have a system of what is called as desk officers, and what in state it is called, at the police level it is called as a nodal officer. So each agency identifies one desk officer who will be the liaison to the other agency, and it is through this liaison that the agencies maintain cooperation. Like if the RAW wants something to be shared directly with IB, they will approach the liaison officer, that is the desk officer of the IB, and he will be responsible for disseminating the information to the head and the relevant other units. Similarly, if the IB wants to share some intelligence with the RAW, it will approach the desk officer of RAW. Now, each state police has a nodal officer for coordinating with IB. Similarly, the same nodal officer is also responsible, and sometimes a different nodal officer is also responsible with coordination with other intelligence agencies, which includes raw, defense intelligence, military intelligence, and they share through that particular officer in the office. uh, Information sharing is a big issue among the agencies. The credit taking is a big issue, and though the system on paper sounds to be very smooth and very direct, it is not very smooth and
It or an officer is compromised.
direct. Yeah.
I think that happened with Ravinder Singh, right, in 2004.
Yeah, I was trying. I would give that example.
Yeah.
Ravindra Singh was not ordinary man. He was a joint secretary level officer in Research Analysis Wing. He was compromised by honey trapping when he was in foreign postings, and it was arranged with the CIA that he would provide information to the CIA using regular methods where normal, which are called dread dead letter drops. That is no agent to agent interaction, just you drop the materials that you have and they will collect it at a point. So he managed that. The counterintelligence, we have special units in our organizations which are called counterintelligence units. So the role of these units is to monitor the intelligence operatives irrespective of their rank and of their area of work, and to check whether they are compromised or not. Sometimes some agents, because they are very good at being covert, can be full counterintelligence and get away, like Mr. Ravindra Singh did. He was a double agent. He was helped by the CIA to leave India. But then what happens? So if he says what happens after that, yeah, he is a double agent. So what happened that he was promised a US citizenship and US job when he betrayed India. Uh, I would like to say on record that the intelligence through cooperation with the CIA at the highest level managed to stonewall his request for citizenship. Secondly, he applied for a job in an American think tank, and again the CIA, with the motivation from Indian Raw, stonewalled his appointment. So his last days, he was very depressed, and he was regretting his decision of compromising the Indian government. He died in the checks that were promised to him by the CIA stopped after 2 years. So it was promised a lifetime of checks. It was stopped after 2 years, and he died in an accident later on. So this is what happens when you betray your country, even even a relaxed country like India does implement costs to the double
Okay.
agents.
Is it true that Ajit Doval and his think tank, the Vivekanand Foundation, played a crucial role in building a narrative favoring BJP for 2014 elections?
I will say that being a retired intelligence officer and out of job, he had every right to educate people on intelligence procedures, not directly reveal any ops, but his foundation did play a role on what was India's strategy, what would be India's strategy, and it is even in intelligence there is a political action group. Every intelligence has that political action group, which tries to influence the political narrative. So, being an ex intelligence officer, he knew that if the political narrative is addressed, is answered, and if some solutions are provided to what seems to be very big, giant problems, then there can be favorable result. But I think it was mostly the incompetence of the previous governments on both corruption and military that favored India, the public to vote for BJP. How many people actually listen to those lectures? I think even if there are lakh or 10 lakhs, there hardly makes a difference in such a wide democracy. So it was basically the failures of the UPA and the power projection and of the BJP that played into the action than his actual think tank. Yes, it did have a sway on the um military intelligentsia, but rather than that, I don't think the normal people were much affected by it.
And how would you rate our intelligence, political, and cultural presence, particularly in Tibet and Xinjiang? Xinjiang.
Tibet, everybody knows we have cultural ties with it. We had Tibetan officers serving in our intelligence agencies. We have Tibetan officers leading paramilitary. We have Tibetan political groups to motivate Tibetan people. We have funded Tibetan guerrillas independent of the intelligence and the paramilitary wings. So in Tibet region, we have a reach. I will say that we have a reach. And if you say about China as a whole, I think their counterintelligence is quite active in China. It is state controlled, and it is really difficult to uh, precipitate China. And we had few successes. We have our technical intelligence is very good. As far as I am concerned, I have talked to people in China desk, and they say that the 90% of intelligence comes from the signet and the technical intelligence, and only 10% intelligence comes from the human department. So that's the case that we are. So if you are talking about human intelligence, it is weak. If you are talking of technical intelligence, it is strong.
Okay.
So
And he also asked about Xinjiang.
Xinjiang. So Xinjiang, particularly, I don't know much of the intelligence setup there, but that is why I answered China as a whole.
Okay.
So it may be reflected in the Xinjiang province also.
Recently, there has been a notice regarding raw recruitment, but
Yeah.
in my knowledge, I heard that there is no specific exam for recruitment in raw. Candidates are approached from IPS, CAPF cadre. So my question is there really such examination for intelligence agencies? And if not, then what is the procedure?
Yeah, there are examinations. There have been examinations. RAW has multiple prolonged approach in for taking manpower. It is through deputations, through direct recruitment, and through recruitment from already selected UPSC candidates. So direct recruitment was not active for some time, but in 2007, 8, and 9, it was quite active, and during 2013-14, it was active, and then again we can see it active in 2020. So the advertisement comes in the forms of cabinet secretariat, and a department in cabinet secretariat requires following certain qualifications. There are multiple levels of entry: assistant, field assistant, uh, deputy field officer, field officer. At the MTech level, it is senior field officer, and scientists, like if you are specialized in specific physics, mathematics, cryptology, those kind of computer science. There are different exams for NTRO. Like same, the advertisement will be either in the name of cabinet secretariat or sometimes directly in the name of NTRO if it is concerned with NTRO. But raw is always cabinet secretariat. In official communiques, it is always mentioned as cabinet secretariat. There is no demarcation or identification that R will be attached or something like that. The recruitment is through direct. You will see in employment news whenever you see cabinet secretariat and the words field officer, senior field officer, crypto. These three words or interpreters. These are for raw, and Uh, Other way is through deputation, like you mentioned, CAPF, IPS, and the most common way is to get into the UPSC civil service examination. During the 3 months of the foundation course, the raw holds a presentation there, and they give you their and they earmark people that certain, if you are interested, they earmark you that your activity will be monitored, and after the end of the foundation and after the end of the completion of training in your particular department, you will be given a 2-year LN into the raw. Like if you are able to complete the training and work as per the requirements, you will be in the raw. Either if you don't complete it, you will be sent back to your parent cadre. Like if you're an IRS officer, you will be sent back to the IRS. So
Oh,
that's the three methods of recruiting in raw.
okay. Thank you so much for addressing that question. The next question is by Raptor. He's asking about Turkey's influence on Indian Muslims and how can we counter that narrative. This is a question for Prudent Hermit.
Can do. We can set a counter narrative. We can actually take help of Saudis, like the Hajj pilgrims that are the list that is approved. So we can ask the Saudi intelligence to debrief these people, or to select certain imams that would talk to them when they go to Hajj and come back. Uh, they can, sort of detoxify the Turkish version, because only Arabs can counter the Turkish narrative of the Muslims. So it is safe to use services of the Arabs in this matter. And of course, we can also cultivate our own, uh, if we can, national imams, like, national mindset imams, if we can cultivate. And they do give sermons that on our loyalty lies only with India and not with Turkey. So we can do those things. Basically, it will be a psychops, and it will be a influence of the minds and hearts. That's all we can do. And
Okay.
and if there are radical elements, they will be taken out by the appropriate enforcement wings.
What is your assessment of our current potential of our intelligence agencies, but I would say particularly raw, and how far can we go in our operations in our neighborhood? I'm adding on to his words.
Huh. Okay, the potential, I think the actual strength, I would not know. And the potential is uh, the gullibility of the population in Pakistan, like Baloch, Sindhis, Ahmadiyyas. We can exploit those. How far we can go? We can actually supply them with money, with arms, with we can brainwash them. We can train them. We can provide them with explosives, and we can give them targets, like where to, who to assassinate and when to assassinate, which things to blow up. So the nuisance causing capability, the potential of it is huge. How far are we actually going to go is a matter for the government to decide, and at the PMO level.
Okay, and that actually goes into the second question I'm going to ask. Sunny asked that what would the intelligence agencies do if a big politician is becoming a hurdle in their operation?
Hmm, Good question, and I think there is a Russian terminology for it. They have, when they have some material on someone, so that's how you approach a problem like that. If a politician is becoming a hurdle, you dig, investigate into the past of the politician, you find out dirt in the present, and how you link it with the national security and toss the narrative. So exposing the politicians, burn the politician. Some such scandal CDs. You remember this famous lawyer after Sibbal, he's number two. What is his name?
Manu Singh.
Abhishek Manu Singhvi, his sex tape came.
Yes, yes,
Hardik Patel, his sex tape came.
yes.
So these are the ways when politicians mess with the intelligence brings those out. So you go and destroy their credibility, So once that is destroyed, no one would take them seriously. They can be in politics, they can run for elections, but people will know that he does not have any worth.
People say our intelligence network is focused too much heavily on Pakistan. Is that true?
Basically, he is right. But I will not say we are not focused on other countries. We are focused on other countries, but it is if, through third parties. Like in third countries, we spy more on China than we actually spy on China in China. We can spy more on China in USA. We can spy more on China in Europe. We can spy more on China in Australia. But we spy less on China in China.
Why again and again are we being targeted by ISI? Moles being exposed from Army, Navy, honey traps happening even in highest level of DRDO and as usual in Army. There was a case of some guys from Rajasthan being exposed helping ISI. Now there was another case about Army recruitment which had ISI hand as well. So what effective steps are being taken for this? And he also mentioned some other examples of the aircraft carrier where the stolen hard drive and but then it came out that it was the painters who stole it. So why is there such a bad level of security in such sensitive matters?
Most of the people who spy on who are caught as spies are basically the guys in the system. So it is duty of any intelligence agencies to turn guys already working in the agencies uh, as assets and have information from them. This is a generations old practice, and if the enemy is doing it, we are also doing. The leaks happen because we don't have a very good standard operating procedures that has checks and balances. This needs to be developed and so that no one person can leak a sensitive information and no one person has complete information on any matter. So that kind of standard operating procedures and security checks have to be placed. Like it is not that if you are a general or if you are a commander of the navy, you cannot be questioned or you cannot be searched while going outside the campus. What are you carrying? So these there have to be steps to check them.
In terms of Pakistan,
Hmm.
Pakistani society, what do you think are their weakest targets that we can
The
exploit?
fault
The fault lines,
the
yes.
fault lines.
Yeah, the fault
So
lines.
their inter caste divide of Ahmadiyyas, the Pashtuns, the Punjabis, the Sindhis, the Balochistanis, we can play on them. Then there's a divide between the haves and the have-nots. So we can play on that. We can play on the political affiliations. Let us find the two wings they support and the extreme right, the extreme left, and the center. We can play between them. Uh, we can play between having a dialogue with India or having a all-out military option. We can find people in those groups who support a dialogue with India. Like it's not only liberals will be in Pakistan to some people sensible. I believe so. Might not be true.
Okay.
So we can find those, and we can actually, if we can target their generals, and we can our intelligence can turn them into some sort of intelligence asset, like workers in the general's home, the security guards at the general's house. If we can turn those people, it will be really helpful.
Can you share an incident or an operation which is public, but it's not known? It's very less known to the public, but it is public. It is not a confidential operation.
So Mumbai terror attack happened in 2008. Okay, everyone knows that. So this is a 2009 ops. What happened that suddenly a news came that the Pakistani ISI station chief in Delhi, every intelligence agency posts its station chief in embassies under official diplomatic cover. So he died of electrocution. He died of electrocution while using his hair dryer, which he uses daily. So the operation is Raw used a low-level cleaning employee to change his hair dryer with a new one, with a similar looking one, which had the settings to electrocute a person so that he dies. So when this man came, the IC station chief, he had put henna in his hair, and he used the hair dryer. He got electrocuted. His body was not even there was no postmortem done, and his body was sent to Pakistan via Wagha border in night around 4 a.m. So
Okay.
this was one of the intelligence ops that we did
Oh wow.
at the highest level. The message was to be conveyed at the highest level of the ISI. So
Oh wow.
this is you can search the article if I remember it correctly, that Pak ISI station chief dies of electrocution. Just type those words and press enter.
Wow. I didn't know about that actually. That's good to know that we were taking revenge for those.
It was a small response, but it was a messaging that was important.
Yes, no, definitely. It's very important actually. What is being done in the area of cyber intelligence, and are we at par with other agencies?